have the pleasure to be again with my friend and business partner, Andrew Soong from Singapore. Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me again.
When we last spoke, you told us a little bit about how families can function in this time of working from home and how we can cope with perceived disruption from family members in our work. But I would like to ask you, if this is not handled correctly, what could be the consequences on the children?
Well, Joel, the last time I spoke that it is good for those who are working from home and have children to at least, even in a Zoom call whatsoever, to just pre-warn the colleagues that kids may be running in. But being adults, once, twice this happens, I think we can tolerate, but it will come to a point where we will find it irritating. And because it's in a very stressful environment, we are working in a very stressful environment now, although it's different, there will be times where we lose control. And we may then scold, shout at, or even discipline the young kids that are coming in to just say hi innocently. And so this is very important because when we do that, what happens is that we actually create negative vibes to the child. The child knows nothing. He's very innocent and he's just coming to you for love. But you're pushing him away or her away to say, no, don't come in, stay outside. You know, daddy's busy, mommy's busy. So what does the child receive? Everything negative from you. And if worse still, you shout at them, you scold them, and even if you raise your hand on them, you cause trauma on them. And it is something that the child will carry with him or her in his memory and her memory. And if it's not being neutralized, soon it will continue till they become adults. And that will affect their future.
Wow, causing trauma in the life of the children. These are really strong words. I see some emotion. It seems to be a very important topic for you. What experience do you have?
Well, let me share with you a story. I used to work as a regional sales director covering Asia Pacific, which means it took out a lot of my time traveling. So I would travel maybe 40% of my time. So it's suitcase after suitcase when I come back. But during my time, there was no emails. There was only the fax machine. I hope you can remember the fax machine. And because I was doing sales, my customers require answers the next day when they send me an inquiry. And in order to make sure that I get an answer from the factory, and I was working with the US at the time, which is about 12 hours difference from Singapore, I would send a fax during the office time, but in the evenings or early in the morning, say about 1 to 2 a.m., I will call the person that I sent to make sure that they received my fax, understood what I wanted, and give me a reply by the next day, by end of their business day, which is morning my time, so that I can in turn advise my customers. But however, in doing that, at that time, I had 2 young children below 7 years old. And I spent so much time early in the morning in my study room that I failed to have the opportunity to put them to bed or even to tell them a story. Everything was left to the wife. And so during the growing up years, if I think back, I actually missed those times of connecting and playing with them and just being a father to them versus just work, and work. I think that was one thing that if I can turn back the clock, I would do that differently.
Wow, this is, thank you for sharing this, opening your heart with your painful experience. What can we do about it, especially if we have been going down that track? How can we recover from that or change something?
Firstly, you have to come to a realization that work is not more important than family. You see, many of us forget we are so immersed into work that we neglect our families, especially our young children. You see, nothing can substitute your family over anything else. One fine day, we may or may not be working in the organization that we think we're giving our lives to. But what happens then if something unexpected happens, like now, many people are losing their jobs. is the company going to take care of us? The reality is no. They too are trying to survive, let alone, look after every employee. So at the end, who looks after us? It's our families. And if we lose the opportunity to connect with our children, especially when they grow up, they are no longer going to be close to us. They will look to us as someone who is an alien. They don't know who their father is or their mother is. It's just a figurehead, but there is no relationship.
Wow. I mean, thanks again for sharing your view on this. Little bit of time to digest those thoughts that actually our job could be the enemy of our children, not necessarily us, and it turns us into an enemy potentially and might have a permanent consequence or impact in the future relationship.
Yep.
You spoke about children or young children and trauma. I have two teens or soon even young adults. What would be your advice for that age as well?
Okay, I think I'm speaking more from an Asian perspective, and the Asian parents tend to be very positional leadership style in the family. In other words, do it, listen to me. No, it's everything is top down. And as a result, there's a tendency for us to hurt and traumatize the child. Now, if this trauma is not eradicated or neutralized early, what will happen? It sits in the memory of the child. When the child is before 7, the subconscious mind is formed. The conscious yet to be formed. So the child would take whatever we give them. If we pour positivity on them, they will absorb positivity. However, if we pour negativity, we're always telling them negative things, we're scolding them, we are disciplining them, that will be kept in their memory. And if we don't neutralize that trauma, what happens is that they will grow up with it until adults. And therefore, some adults, as you know, they have these issues with feeling low self-esteem. They say they have this thing that I cannot make it. Whatever they do, they never succeed. They are fearful, etc., etc. And all these, if you go back deep down, something happened to this adult during their formative years. Something happened, and it wasn't neutralized. So as a result, when something similar triggers when they are adult, this memory triggers them. So they can never succeed in whatever they do. It needs some form of therapy to clear that fear or that low self-esteem. However, when you have kids that are teenagers, whether we cause the trauma to them or not, and we forgot to neutralize it, we must then find a way to sit them down, help them understand, bring them back to the incident where it happened, and come from a level of authority to humility. We are parents, yes, we are the ones with the authority. However, if we are able to humble ourselves and tell our child or our teenage that, hey, son, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, your daddy did this. And it was because I was unable to control my temper and I said those words to you and the way I discipline you, I think it is wrong. And I just want to tell you, I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? That takes a lot of courage, especially for men. Because men, we are macho. No way. But we need to bring ourselves to that level. If we treasure our children, if we treasure the relationship, we want to have a happy family, a holistic upbringing of our children, we need to take that decision to start taking that step from authority to humility.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing this. I really hear these words, taking from authority to humility and doing it now so we can still restore the relationship.
Exactly.
Thanks so much, Andrew, for everything you were sharing with us.
You're most welcome.